welcome to the show. So
Thanks,
good to
Lisa. It's
have you
great to be here.
back. You're a favorite guest. In such a timely topic.
Yeah, not a better time to talk about college essays. And now students are finishing up their
Yeah.
junior year. They're getting ready to apply to college for real. I always say, people ask me, when should my students start? I say, when it feels real. Now it's
Yeah.
starting to feel
Yeah.
real.
Well, and if it's not feeling real, then you got to start anyway, right?
Absolutely. Well, not quite yet. They can wait a
Yeah.
few weeks. But yes, when school ends, depending on where you are in the country, it's time to go.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that is a wonky one. It's different all over the place, right? It's about the
Yeah.
same for you and me, which is Memorial Day. So we should tell everybody we had a great webinar unearthing what do colleges mean when they say be authentic in the
Mhm.
essays and applications. And it was so fun and so good and informative. We had a great group. I was amazed. We had people from China and people from like half the states. So it needs to become a podcast.
Yeah, here we
So
are.
here we are. So that's what this is rooted in. I mean, we families hear all the time. College is saying be authentic,
Right.
and kids misinterpret it.
Yeah.
How do you see them misinterpreting? What do kids think it means? And then we'll get to what colleges really mean.
Good question. So, what I find is when students hear that, they think that they have to craft some sort of authentic persona. It's almost like becoming like some sort of social media star. Like they have to create a version of themselves that will be appealing to colleges, which is the opposite of authentic. Because often what they'll say is, I'm not that interesting, nothing special happens to me. And I say, well, actually, they expect you to be a regular person. The people who are reading your applications actually know that you have normal experiences
They
like a
also know
regular
that you're a
kid.
teenager and not a 35-year-old, right?
Exactly. So there's this feeling that this word authentic, when I think colleges mean, just be yourself, students interpret it as, well, myself isn't good enough, so what else should I be? And
Imposter
that's
syndrome.
hard. That's really stressful.
Yeah, I mean, I see that in our career clarity work that we're doing with the kids. Like yeah, I'm not enough, so why try? Or we encourage kids, there's 6 different types of validation experiences for careers that we teach.
Yeah.
And they will stay behind a device and research I'm holding this up as if it's my phone. Research and research and research the heck out of it with all the resources we give them and our 8,000 video library of careers and all the things. And as soon as it's time to get out from the device and get out into the real world,
Yeah.
which is actually what they need to do, they're scared to death because they're like, nobody's going to say yes to me
Right.
for an informational interview or a
Yeah.
job shadow or all the
Yeah.
other things that we do.
Right.
It's so this mindset piece is a huge part of it.
It's a really big part of it. And I think that, one of the things that we emphasize, and I think you do as well, is starting where the student is, where they already are. I say to them, you've already done the hard work. You either were in the marching band or you weren't. You either had a job after school or you did it. And it's not that you can't like do more things, but
Right.
you made choices, and you made choices for reasons as you went through school. You took certain classes, you didn't take other classes. You had certain kind of summer experiences, you didn't have other summer experiences. Wherever you are, you can start from there. There's a place for you. And so with that in mind, I find as much as I can lower the stakes, the
Mhm.
better, because the lower the stakes, the better the student actually performs. Because they're not trying so hard. They're not feeling like they have to overcome something. So that's a big part of what we do, is helping students recognize that wherever you are right now,
It's
that
okay.
is actually where you're supposed to be. And it's where everybody else is too. They're not somehow ahead of you.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I think too that relates to what I see is the stakes that are too high in the college major and career coaching that we're doing is these kids feeling like I'm making a forever decision. Like we come
Right.
up against I'm making a forever decision. No, you're making the decision that's in front of you. And like with the group that you're talking about,
Mhm.
it's the college major,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And how am I signaling that I've got some direction and it fits?
Right. Yeah.
But it's just that step. Now, what are you going to be till you're 65 and retire, right?
Right. Or I get the students who say, well, the school I want to go to, getting into the business school is too hard, but I want to be in business. And I say, I'm in business. I didn't go to
That's right.
business school. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology. That there are paths to careers. I don't have to tell you this. There
Yep.
are paths to careers that can go through all sorts of majors, and the major can be based on an interest or something they're good at or anything.
Yeah.
And that will get them, it's the other experiences they have that will lead them beyond just, I went to college, I took a bunch of classes, I graduated, now what?
Yeah. I mean, there's a handful of jobs. So, like engineering,
Mhm.
architecture,
Right.
nursing, right?
Yeah.
Teaching, that you have to have a specific degree.
Mhm.
But by and large, most careers don't require a specific degree, right?
Right.
And that's what we try to say. Like, you want to do some work to
Yes.
know if you're aiming at one of those that do require a specific
Right.
degree. And I'm going to be honest, like when people say what are the most competitive majors, there's a variety of reasons why majors are competitive, right?
Yeah.
They could be hard,
Mhm.
cognitively hard, right?
Right.
They could be capacity capped, like, oh my
Mhm.
word, computer science like in
Yeah.
business, crazy, right? Like these colleges could fill a freshman class many
Right.
times over.
Yeah.
It could be that it's competitive because, like with nursing and teaching, you have clinical or field experiences
Right.
that require oversight, right? And
Yeah.
availability. And there's
Mhm.
only so much of that to go
Right.
around. But yeah, once you get out of those, then you don't have to, you and I don't have business degrees and we have businesses.
Absolutely.
So one of the things like, okay, so starting now, that was a common question.
Yeah.
You know, by starting now, you're like, the essays start when schools get out.
Right. For the
What
most part.
to be to write good essays,
Yeah.
what clarity do they have to have? Like what should they have done going up to it? Because the work that I
Yeah.
do is starting as early as 10th grade. And I actually
Right.
find the people that have the best ease and
Mhm.
flow through the college bound process
Yeah.
actually did start sophomore
Right.
year or early junior year.
So, what I see as leading up to strong essays
Yeah.
might seem like it's not connected, but I say that if you have a good list, you can write strong essays. How do you get a good list? You visit colleges, you talk to people who go to those colleges, you learn about the majors at those colleges. So, that should be happening in 10th and 11th grade. They should be
Yeah.
thinking about, so the students who struggle are the ones who aim at a school that they've just heard about by reputation. It's on their list
Yeah.
because it's prestigious. And I say, well, Brown and Harvard are both Ivy League schools. They have almost nothing in common except you have to be really smart and accomplished to go there.
Yeah.
So, which one are you applying to and why? So that's an extreme example of someone wanting to go to the most elite school. But even state schools, I'm in the state of Michigan. Students will say, I want to go to the University of Michigan. And I say, well, why? Well, because I love their basketball. And I say, it's a really rigorous curriculum. Great, go to basketball games. That's amazing. My dad went there, my uncle went there, my grandfather. That's very nice. Do you know anything about? And then I start listing. I said, do you want to stay in state? Here are 7 other schools in
Yeah.
state. What are you interested in? And we start to have this conversation. Having it with me, I mean, I can have that conversation. Having it with me is a little bit late. They should be doing that early so that when they come to me, let's say they do want to go to the University of Michigan. Michigan has 2 supplemental questions. One is, why do you want to come here?
Mhm.
And the fact that I was wearing a maize and blue onesie is not the reason they're looking for. That is, they know that you're excited to go there. So are, tens of thousands of other people. But I find that students who can reflect, who actually can think about who they are beyond what they've done. And I tell this to parents is how can I help my student? I say, help them understand what's great about them. What are their
Yeah.
best characteristics? Because the essays, especially the comment at personal statement, so that wording personal statement, it's about who you are, not what you've done. What you've done is all over the application. That's easy to measure. Those are quantitative. But what kind of person are you? So start reflecting and also make sure that the colleges on your list are a good fit for you. So go to Lisa first and then
Yeah.
come to
Well, I was
me.
going to say, I mean, that's what we begin with, right?
Yeah.
We start our career confidence framework.
Yeah.
It's 3 steps, and they're really pretty simple. It
Hmm.
begins with self-awareness.
Yeah.
getting and by self-awareness, and I think when kids have these things that
Yeah,
we say embody self-awareness, they will naturally, I always say that, it will naturally translate into strong essays if you know what an essay is supposed to be. So
right.
we're with that, we're saying like what are we measure it through the Berkman assessment.
Hmm.
I had a mom ask me today in a session, when I ask my kid about themselves and they're like, I don't know. How do I get them to talk about it? I'm like, well, we give an assessment and we use that as a conversation starter and to
Right.
dig deeper, to look beneath the hood. So we're talking about like what motivates you?
Hmm.
What do you need and expect from other people in your work environment? What are your strengths that you bring? Let's
Hmm.
layer on then your values and your
Right.
academic aptitudes and limitations. Can we please normalize having weaknesses and not having to be smart at everything?
Yeah, absolutely. And the sooner you can do that, the better, because
Yeah.
uh, they shouldn't be able to do every single thing. It's interesting because so we have a 10-step process, and our first step, which is what most people skip who don't use our process. Because I have trained hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of counselors. We're gonna hit 700 this year. And these are
Amazing.
people who've actually gone through our training program, who've like paid money to be trained and write an essay with a WOW coach. So there's thousands more who have gone to free sessions and seen my webinars and gone to conferences. But I say this because even and they're like the experts who are getting additional professional development, say, oh, I just assumed that they understood the prompt. I say, no, that's step one. In the WOW method, in our 10 steps, the first step is understand the prompt and purpose. So that doesn't just mean understand the paragraph. What do these words mean? It's why are you writing this essay? So we start with the personal statement. It's a good teaching essay. But then they can apply that to any other essay they have to write. So if they learn how to understand the prompt and purpose, which means understanding the task,
Hmm.
understanding your audience, understanding how an essay fits into the whole application. They don't just jump over the wall. There's all kinds of sample essays out there. I say, great, read 1,000 of them. It's not going to help you with
No.
yours because they're out of context. So if you understand the prompt and purpose and then start brainstorming ideas, we find that students can give us at least one positive characteristic because we have explained that the purpose of this first essay is to share something beyond what you've done. And I say to them, in this case, that positive characteristic can be I'm a hard worker. It doesn't have to be anything extravagant
Like,
because
yeah.
once they start writing through our process, other positive characteristics will emerge. The stories
Yeah.
they choose to tell will be more complex than they realize, even if they're pretty mundane and simple.
I mean, and even our kids have a very easy time with that because they've spent so much time getting to know themselves and
Right.
connecting it to
Yeah.
exploring and validating careers, which is our
Yeah.
second step.
Hmm.
So they have an easy time with that. But it sounds like your process for somebody who hasn't done any of that work, just the process alone, these kids
Yeah.
probably know more about themselves. We find that too.
Yeah.
They actually know more about themselves than they are aware of.
Right.
But it's
Right.
when they have a process
Hmm.
that it brings them out because they just don't know where to start without a framework.
Exactly.
And
Hmm.
I career clarity is rooted in a framework. Essay
Yeah.
writing is rooted in a framework.
Yeah.
Overwhelmed kids just need a step-by-step process.
They need an activity that will take them 15 minutes that they can be successful at. And that, I mean, I've been doing this now for 17 years and I have found, people say, oh, kids are different today, or this is different today, or that's different. I say, look,
Yep.
the parents are like a generation younger than when I started. So they're not
Yeah.
even my peers anymore. And so even the parents have changed. But if you give a student who is embarking on this challenging and very important part of their life, and you give them a task that they can complete and can help them feel confident and can help them feel capable, they will do the next step. And if in that step I can help them feel confident and help them feel capable,
Hmm.
they'll do the next step. And much to their surprise, they're halfway through our 10 steps. They've written one draft by then because there's a bunch of preliminary work that happens. And they say, this isn't that hard. And we say, it's really not that hard. You just didn't understand what it was. And
Yeah.
even if they did understand what it was, and I said, now go write me a draft, that would still be too much. It's too big. Because
Well,
trying
Good.
to get them to do this in bite-sized pieces.
Yeah, a couple things stood out. Like you
Mhm.
said, in 15 minutes, right?
Yeah,
So we intentionally are like 10 to 15-minute lessons,
right, right,
bite-sized chunks. Like that would be
right,
a piece of advice that I have for anybody with
right.
teenagers, right?
Yeah,
I would say when parents or kids say kids have changed so much,
yeah.
like I will admit attention spans are shorter.
That's true. That's
And
true.
so, that bite-sized chunk piece,
Hmm.
but the fact that like they're halfway through your 10-step process
Hmm.
before they're really even writing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that would be like a kid choosing their college major.
Hmm.
Oftentimes they're faced with the application and
Right.
they're like, oh, I don't know what
I
box
have
to
to check a
check.
box.
And yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of steps before you
Yeah.
should be checking that box.
Right.
And that kind of brings me to something that came up multiple times in our webinar this
Yeah.
week, which was the number of people, given the fact that we work at the intersection of college major and career clarity
Hmm.
and essays, how you
Yeah.
express authenticity to the
Hmm.
colleges. A lot of people ask, do I need to write about my college major selection
Right.
or what I want to be when I grow up
Mhm.
in the personal statement?
Right.
And I'm going to let you speak to that.
The answer to that is please don't. It's not that
Oh,
it's, well, here's the thing. It's if they want to know that, they will ask.
mhm.
That's what supplemental essays are for.
And a
So
lot of them do.
yeah, and a lot of many more of them than ever are asking a question along the lines of, what do you want to major in? Why do you want to come here? What do we offer that is a good fit for you? The questions vary, and that's why I take them back to step one. Understand the prompt and purpose. If it's a school where you're applying directly to the major,
Mhm.
that kind of question is extremely important
Mhm.
because they're asking for justification. This is not because I kind of think that, history sounds neat. That's not what they're looking for. Those are majors where a lot of people want to go to, you already said this. I don't need to tell you this, but that this is competitive. Now, if it's a prompt that asks, why is our unique program the right fit for you?
Mhm.
They want to know, do you know something about their curriculum? There are schools that have very distinct ways of teaching, and they know that you will only be successful there if you understand what you're embarking on before you get there.
Well,
So,
that goes back to your good
yeah,
college list,
right, exactly,
right?
exactly.
Like what came to mind was Purdue,
Hmm.
the computer science major, which at many, 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 many universities is in
Right.
the engineering school.
Yes.
It is not in the engineering school at Purdue. So
Yeah.
it changes how that curriculum's taught,
Right.
right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
this is where we're signaling fit and direction. We've got
Right.
clarity.
And so to go back to your original question, do they need to write about, I've always wanted to be a doctor, and so I'm a great problem solver, and let me tell you about the medical experience I had. No, now, if a student has been an EMT and is trained and had an experience one night during, they were out on a call and something happened where they demonstrated their problem solving skills or their resiliency or their ability to be calm under pressure. That's a story about who they are as a person. It happened in a place where they were doing training because I want to be in the medical field one day, and so I have done this during high school. But they're not, but this gets to purpose. What is the purpose of that essay? It's to show who I am, not to prove to you that I've had experiences that will lead me to be a physician or a nurse or whatever. So it's not that they can't write about what they're interested in. It's the same reason students say, I've heard that I shouldn't write about, and then they list sports,
Athletics. We
service
both
at
said
the same time. I shouldn't write about these things. And I say, if you're writing about lacrosse, no, they know
yeah.
you play lacrosse. If you're writing about the fact that you were the team captain, the reason you're the team captain is because this person who was supposed to be the team captain, she moved to Texas and you live in Ohio. And all of a sudden, your coach came to you and said, I think you'd make a good captain, and you've never been captain of anything, even though you're the star lacrosse player. How did you approach that experience? That's not a story about lacrosse. That's a story about you taking on responsibility that's different from what you've done before. So, helping students understand that there are no topics that are off limits or absolutely better than others. It's if you can if you can answer the prompt in a way that demonstrates that you understand the question. In fact, I talk to admissions officers all the time and I ask them, I've asked this question so many times in the last 17 years. What do you want me to tell my students? And they say, will you tell them to answer the question? Will you tell them to please just answer? I mean, a variation on
Well,
that.
and the kids think that they are answering. I guess
Yes.
that's the
Yeah.
disconnect, right? So,
Right.
be authentic. And then they say in authenticity in a way that answers the actual
Right.
question. So the mistakes you're seeing are like too polished,
Yeah.
trying to be something you're not,
Mhm.
not answering the
Not
question.
answering the question and not understanding the purpose of the question. So then my admissions people say, tell them I just want them to be authentic. And then I push back and I say, well, what do you mean by that? Because what they say, and I say this to admissions officers all the time, I say, what you say and what they hear doesn't match. I say, I get what they heard. They tell me, so and so came to my school from such and such a university, and here's what they said. And I say, they did? Really? Are you sure? And then I kind of go below the surface and say, oh, they said things like be authentic, or, oh, there's another one I tell admissions officers. So they will share their favorite essays. This was the first paragraph of my favorite essay. So to all of
Yeah.
you parents and students listening to this, take those with a grain of salt.
There's a
They read a
couple,
lot of
there's a
essays.
couple schools that are known for putting these out there.
Yes, exactly. And I say take them with a grain of salt. Why? And also I push back at admissions officers on this. I say, I understand that you love that first paragraph, and that's great. But tell me, if that first paragraph wasn't so amazing, would you still have admitted that student? They say, oh, yeah. And I say, you are making it sound like the student has to be a strong writer in order to go to your school.
Mm.
And that's not true. And you know it, and I know it. And they say, yeah, but it's my favorite, and I love to share it. And I say, I know, but what you say and what they hear, then they come to me and say, I need a hook. I heard that you need to have a great first sentence or they won't keep reading. And I say, no, they'll read. I mean, they're going to read fast. They're all going to read really
Yeah,
quickly. They're
6 to
skimming
9 minutes on the whole
the whole
application,
application.
people.
Right. So the mistakes they make really go back to trying to be something they're not, or not understanding, or moving too quickly and not taking their time, which is why I say the first draft is a fifth step. I say there's plenty of time for revision. We got, 5 more steps, all about revision,
Yeah.
but slow down. Take your time.
You made a comment earlier about like if they want to know,
Mhm.
about your major or your
Yeah,
Andy Borst, when he was at University of Illinois
yeah,
Urbana-Champaign, he was on the podcast.
yeah,
He's at Georgia now. And he talked, they actually there have it broken up into two essays. And it's only 150 words, by the way.
yeah.
So I don't even know if we can call that an essay. But
It's
what do you
yours.
want to major in?
Hmm.
And why? And what are you going to do with that major? Right. So,
Yes,
but then
yes.
you've got like Georgia Tech. Rick Clark was on the
Mhm.
podcast. He has a different version of that. They've
Right.
got a different version of that at Michigan.
Hmm.
Right. So you really do have
Yes,
to understand the nuances of the prompt.
right.
So I would say that the why this major essay tends to be the fastest growing among the
Yes.
supplemental
Hmm.
essays. For years, schools asked, why us? Why do you want to attend
Hmm.
here?
Yeah,
And the major could be part of that.
yeah.
If they admit by major to some or all
Hmm.
majors, which we have a list of at least for the state flagships,
Hmm.
and gives you how to find out.
Yeah.
People can download it, flourishcoachingco.com. If
Okay.
they're asking that, they probably have admitting to major to some
Yes.
degree,
Yeah.
right? In your process, I know you
Hmm.
said let's start at the beginning of summer
Yeah.
writing. Should they write the personal statement before supplementals? I know supplementals aren't in stone
Right.
until August.
August. Yeah.
There's some colleges, Michigan
Yes.
notoriously usually does let you know early
Right.
if you ask, like,
Exactly.
and they
Yeah.
haven't changed them in a million years.
It's May. Well, no, they changed one of their prompts last year. That
Oh,
was
they
their
did.
prompt last
See,
year.
I'm not an
And
essay
you're not
specialist.
doing that. It's a
I don't know.
mashup of like leadership in your future plans. I find it, so what we do for our students, and
Do
we
they still have
parse
the
all the prompts.
community essay?
They got rid of the community essay. The
Ah,
essay is gone, which I loved the community essay.
I
I
did
thought it was a
too.
great essay.
Yeah.
So this essay is a mashup of leadership. So that's a big U of M word, and your future, like what are you going to do in the future? But they also have the why us essay, which is not just about
Still,
majors, also is about,
yeah,
why engineering and not literature, science, and the arts, or why kinesiology, or do you want to do
yeah,
a living learning community, whatever. So this new essay is challenging. So what we do for our students, we always have pre-work for them before we talk about what they're going to write about. So we parse the prompts. We go in and we look at every prompt and we say, here's what it means, here's how to read it, here's how to think about it, because we've taught them how to do that. So to
yeah.
answer your question, we do the Common App personal statement first because it is the best learning essay. It is the
I
best
agree.
teaching essay. And we can use the principles. So we do two things. We are learning two things while students are working on the Common App. We are learning how they work, which will help us as coaches guide them appropriately through the supplements because our Common App process takes about 4 weeks
Yeah,
and we get them done. I mean,
yeah.
there's flexibility, but it's about 4 weeks. And people say, oh my, I wrote my Common App. It took me 10 weeks. I did it all summer. I'm like, don't do that. It's
There's no
exhausting.
reason for it to take that.
No. So we do that first, and then we can apply those principles and say, okay, step number one, understand the prompt and purpose. Here's our interpretation of these prompts. Here's some questions to help you start to brainstorm ideas for how you might answer those questions. And then we meet with them and talk about it. So there's these
Mhm.
elements of thinking and reflection, which we want them to do on their own or with their family or with,
Yeah,
someone they trust to have a conversation. And then we come in as the experts on the prompts and the essays. What throws us is when we get new prompts and we say, "Oh, well, it's a lot like this one. Let's
yeah.
go back and look at what we did, for that one." Or we call the school and say, "You have a new prompt. Let's make sure that we understand
Right.
what
We
you're
want to understand as coaches, you want to understand, just
Right.
like as coaches, I need to understand these careers and what it means to do
Yes.
these careers for whom
Yeah.
they might be a fit. I have a
Right.
question for you as I'm thinking about this. So like our kiddos have
Mhm.
they might not know how to write
Yeah.
well, but they have all of the background, the kids who come out of our Launch
Mhm.
Career Clarity course, to
Right.
be able to very easily express the
Yeah.
why us or the
Uh-huh.
why this major type
Right.
questions. Is it a mistake if you're starting with a personal statement?
Hmm.
And I know you said like it's okay to talk about future
Hmm.
aspirations or sports within context of like, what do we learn about you?
Yes. Yeah.
But there's a part of me that now I'm wondering if they're not going to know until August, if they have to write the why this major, and they
Yeah.
will probably apply to some school. If they're
Yes.
finding universities, not liberal arts
Yeah.
colleges,
Right.
they will have to write why
Yeah.
this major.
Someone's gonna ask.
Somebody's going to ask it on their list. So, does it feel like it could be a mistake to use the career major aspirations for the personal statement? If then like if they do include it and it makes sense, your EMT example's
Yeah.
fantastic, like that would make sense. But then, oh no, what the heck are we going to do over here when we get the why this major essay in August? Could that be an error?
Oh, good question. So no, because here's the thing. It's about how they handle it in the personal sim. So in my EMT example, this is a story about my problem solving skills or my ability to be calm under pressure, which
Yep.
is important. And that's the story. And maybe this story is the only thing in the essay. Maybe it's the whole essay, or maybe it's an example in the essay of myself, me being calm under pressure, or maybe it's there's background about how I learned to be calm under pressure and here's where I exhibited it. Or maybe like there's so many ways that it could
Yeah.
be handled so that when I say to the students, when they're done reading it, what do you want them to know about you? And if they say, I want them to know that I'm a great EMT, and I say, not your purpose. Your purpose is to show them what kind of person you are. So then if in the why this major they say, well, I've done, I had this kind of training and I've done this many hours and I've learned this many skills. That's about evidence. That is about
Right.
what have you done?
Well,
So
ding,
then,
ding, ding. I think you
yeah,
just hit it. Like
yeah,
that, it's really so character driven on your
right.
personal statement.
Yes.
And sometimes I do see people make the mistake, in my amateur writing opinion, of the supplementals
Mhm.
need to be as much of a personal narrative as the
Right.
personal statement when it's really a lot of them more evidence-based.
Right. And some of them can be. I mean, I've had YS essays that read like narratives or like narrative, like maybe there's different pieces,
Yeah.
because that's how the student writes or that's how they're comfortable. As long as the right information is in it.
The
But if they
evidence is
pick one
there.
story and treat it like a narrative that this is what's going to show, University X that I belong there,
No.
that's
Yeah.
not what they're looking for. They
Yeah.
want to know, are you a good fit? I
So
tell them it's a
funny. It
dating
all
essay.
goes
It's not,
back to
what's that?
understanding the prompt.
Yeah, absolutely. Always,
We're
always.
all the
I mean,
way back to understanding the prompt again.
always.
Oh my gosh. So, personal statement timeline. Let's give you a
Mhm.
little breather as soon as school
Yeah.
gets out and get in there.
Hmm.
And don't plan on it taking more than 4 weeks.
Yeah.
If you have the right process, I can see how it's
Right.
going to take longer if they don't go about it in the
Absolutely.
right way, right?
Yeah.
And then after August 1st,
Mhm.
supplementals.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so setting
And
them
then
up
we
for success.
say 3 or 4 weeks per school, but overlapping. So we're brainstorming on school one. They're writing drafts for school one. Then they're brainstorming for school two. They're writing drafts. So they're always writing multiple drafts. I mean, they're working on drafts for multiple schools. And then once they've applied to 2 or 3 schools, almost everything is a modification. Then understanding the prompt is crucial because the first question we ask then is,
Yeah.
what have you already written that is possibly similar to this, and how would you change it?
Yeah.
And just saying, well, the one I wrote is 300 words and this is 150, I'd cut 150 words. That is not the answer.
Do you find that kids have an easier time writing the shorter or the longer essays?
That's a good question. Sometimes the shorter ones are harder because you have to put more in the package in
Yeah.
a smaller space. In fact, parents will ask us, when we work with students, our packages are either by the essay or by the school. And they say, well, what if the essays are short? I say, that's just as much work for me to help
Yeah.
your child write
It
excellent
might be
short
more work. I mean,
essays.
what comes to mind is the 10 activities in the
Yes.
Common App.
Yeah.
Like, whoo, you
Yeah.
don't get a lot of real estate to explain
No.
it there. So you got a
Yes.
lot of bang for your buck in those
Yeah.
descriptions.
Right. Exactly.
When you approach you said like you're drafting, but you're writing there's
Mhm.
this stacked
Yeah.
overlap,
Yeah.
right? How do you engineer that? Do you start with just nearest deadline or school that's like number one on your list?
So that's one of the things. It's funny that you asked that because I was just showing that to someone. We have programs for professionals where we train them, they use our platform and our resources, or we work with their students, three
Yeah.
different things. But for the ones who use our platform, we have a whole library of resources. And I was showing someone yesterday, here are 4 different ways that you can do exactly answer the question. So the option number one is assuming that they don't have a deadline that's like,
Yeah.
in 3 weeks,
Yeah.
if they have time. Option number one is pick an easy school, one that you think you're going to get into, or where the essays don't feel that challenging, and do that after the Common App.
That kind of goes back to the imposter syndrome thing that we were talking
Yeah,
about towards the
right.
beginning, right?
Yeah. So that's option number one. Option number two, pick your early action, early decision. So the one with the early deadline where you're really committing, this is where I want to go, and work on that because you'll feel good that it's done and you'll feel accomplished.
Mhm.
Option number three is if they're applying to the University of California, which has personal insight questions, which are different than the Common App. They don't take the Common App. Then go directly to the personal insight questions because you have to write 4 of them. And you will then have templates for almost every essay you're going to have to write for anything else.
Right.
So we and those cannot be submitted until October. So,
Right.
it's not even available. But so what we really do is as we're working with a student on the first essay, like I said, it's a learning opportunity for us as well as the student. We're paying a lot of attention to the student's willingness and ability to
Mhm.
do the work. And by that, I mean, when we say willingness, I mean not just are they going to do it, because they're doing it. I mean, their parents hired us to work with them. But I really mean how much effort will they put in their ability? I don't just mean their writing skills. I mean, can they concentrate? Do
Yeah.
they have a learning disability? Is reading hard for them? Do they have something really challenging going on in their life and they can't concentrate right now? Like, I need to be real about what they can do because I want them to be successful and I want them to finish.
Well, that goes back to what we were saying about self-awareness, right? Let's get
Exactly.
real about our strength and let's normalize what our weakness is and just get
Exactly.
real about it.
Right. So if a student says to me, reading is hard for me, my next question is, so what do you do in school? How do you deal with it?
Yeah.
If they tell me I don't know, I know we're going to have a problem. It's not that I
Yeah.
won't work with them, but it's going to be more challenging. I mean, I have 1,000 tricks that we can use, but that helps us create the schedule and the plan for students to decide what they're going to do in what order once they finish that first essay. And we say there are three foundational principles. Process, that's the 10 steps. Plan, who are you? What does your life look like? What does your summer look like? Where are you applying? And schedule. And so by having a firm schedule for the first essay, we're teaching the student that they can meet deadlines and that we're serious about deadlines. And that makes the rest of the work go much more quickly.
Well, as you're saying this, I'm picturing in my head your PDF download that you have. And it is literally in chunks. I can visualize it,
Mhm.
the different parts of your 10-step
Yeah.
process. So we will put in the show notes and I will put in the outro because I forget the exact tag that we have for it, where people can go and download your 10-step process
Right.
and really see what that looks like and how they're thinking about how they're going to tackle this. Really, it's a project to manage for sure.
It is. It
So,
is. And parents, you can help your student by lowering the heat
yeah,
before they start. But that helps us a lot. When parents are calm, we have a whole series of emails and messages we share with parents as well,
yeah.
because they'll get involved in ways that are not helpful to their student and that are not helpful to us. So we try
I
to we give them a job, we give them things to do.
we see the same thing, and I would just say like when you start sooner, that everybody remains calmer in
Absolutely.
our process, in
Yeah.
your process.
Mhm.
So, well, Susan, thank you for making the time at the timely part of the year for this topic. I
Thanks, Lisa.
appreciate it, and we will absolutely do it again.
All right. Great to be with you.
Thank you.